I'm going to introduce you both, and then the concept. So,
okay.
Let's see. All right, Les, you want to do the clap stick? Away we go. Away we go. Here we are at OI Studio on the Central Coast, inside the Central Coast Leagues Club. There's a fantastic studio up here. It's available for business and community groups. We've got some of the best broadband in the nation to allow you to do this. Today we're trying a new stream method via Facebook, directly via Facebook. Previously here we've stuck to YouTube, which has been a wonderful success, but Facebook recently, or not so recently, has come up with a streaming option for businesses. You need to have the infrastructure to do it. If you don't, and the broadband upload speed in particular, if you don't have a green screen, contact us, come in here, and we'll certainly talk to you about how you can go ahead and do that. But today in the studio we have some very, I think, exciting middle-aged men. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you.
Welcome, David.
Thank you, Dave.
And there's another fellow over here who's off screen who you'll meet in a minute, Danis. Today we're talking about business photography, how we can do wonderful new business photography. I'm just going to read a little bit from your bios because you're probably too modest to say yourself. So Marc here on my immediate right is a local commercial photographer, certified most importantly by the Google Street View Trusted program, specialising in 360 virtual tours that are published on Google Maps, Google Street View, Google Search Results and Google Earth, other than the web and all sorts of other media platforms. We're going to see some wonderful examples of how that can show off businesses, and some good local examples, Marc, of how we can show off businesses. Marc's business is called Pics, 360 virtual tours, so if you don't understand what it is, you can always ask Marc. By the end of this, I think you'll have a good idea. Marc's a member of the International Virtual Reality Photographers Association. I didn't know there was such a thing, Marc.
There is.
But no doubt there's a hive of you people around the world doing these great things. And Marc's has, as all middle-aged men, we've had a huge amount of experience. Too much to go into here. I'm sure you might touch on them briefly. We're talking also to David Inwood from Bravo Drones. David's been very good, and he's got himself a black shirt with his logo on. You're smart. David's business might seem to be self-explanatory, but I think we'll find that this is much more than what you've been led to believe on the television programs and online. Dave's been a professional photographer in many areas, has great experience in CAD and other design, and you'll see he lends his professionality to this particular sector and the certification. So welcome, Dave.
Thank you.
We're going to kick off with a little bit of where we're going to go, because we're not sitting here just to educate you just for the sake of it. We'd like to think that businesses and organisations will actually have a little bit of a look at where you actually go with this new business photography. The guys here have sewn together a rather interesting stream to do with where we're going to go. So in a minute we're going to flip over to a view of what you can do with both of these technologies, and we can talk to them. So our director Les will soon project up behind us some of what is a local town all known to us. We might talk a little bit to that. We're starting off on an obviously a drone view, David. What are we looking at here?
Obviously, it's the beautiful waterfront down at Gosford.
Yep.
So gorgeous day, made for I would say easier photography when it's like that. So subject matter is something that's dear to many people's hearts on the Central Coast. I certainly found when I published this, it was extremely well taken. The amount of social media take up on it and likes and shares was quite amazing, really. It's actually a 360 photograph, so if Les was to spin it around, we can spin further and we can move up and down. We've done a number of technical items on that.
Wow,
as you can see on this one, it's actually got a number of hyperlinks that we can link to other sites or other locations.
And I'll get Marc to talk about that in a minute, because this is about going over and then into things in a way that we're not used to. But first of all, how do you possibly get such a fantastically sewn together 360 view?
It's not like a lot of people think these days. There's technology out there that allows you to actually use a single photo, but their quality is extremely poor. What this is, a number of, quite a large number of photographs are stitched together using some high-end professional equipment, and also with that being said, there's a lot of post-processing work on that. So a lot of people think just take a photo and you're done. Like, you know, we all have iPhones and things like that.
Well, it's a bit of fun to do, isn't it? I mean, it is.
And you do that, you think that's fantastic, but when you take it to the next level of understanding how you can process that information and pull out the colours, get extra detail in there, even in some instances, remove detail it might be required.
Well, the one thing that strikes me about this is there's obviously an art to getting up at the right height.
Yes.
Because if you're at the right height, you know, you get these wonderful sort of sweeping vistas that we're seeing.
Yes, yes.
And the clarity of the colours, I can't see any. I can't see any joins. I can't see. It seems to almost be like a perfect world. So because my world isn't exactly like that. Yeah. It's not as. Where are we looking at now, David? If you can recall from your.
That's Tawoon Bay. We're looking directly towards Tawoon Bay now. So we're shooting from Long Jetty. If Les was to spin that around further, we'd be pointing the other way to Long Jetty itself. Les is navigating this using a computer and a mouse. It can be done on a tablet quite easily by the finger and so forth.
Fantastic views.
And zooming, we tend to find that we limit that so that it doesn't make the experience a bit too unwieldy. Yeah. Because I do like
the slow moving, Dave. I like this sort of slow moving thing because it allows my eyes to basically feast on all the beauty that is invariably in these shots. If we go back, but we're going to talk more detail about that in a minute.
People use that as like a screensaver. You know, put it on a large projection screen, as you're almost seeing there, and that can just sit in the background. So you know.
So that's the over. If we go back and have a quick look at where we were on the Gosford waterfront, because I know the guys have made some effort, and we'll talk about going into some of these images, the ones where we saw where we go into certain businesses, Les. So, and that's where we're going to go to in a minute, because there's one thing, as you see, is the actual imagery, but the next thing is actually augmenting that reality.
That's right.
Effectively, Marc.
Exactly.
And that's where you come in.
That's right, yeah.
So what are we seeing here?
This actually is a combination of David's wonderful work and the ability to overlay on top of that imagery, which is of the same nature, which is 360-degree virtual tours inside of each one of those businesses that you're seeing pop up on the screen.
So you're saying to me that you go into a particular business from above, and then things you don't normally find on maps, and here we are inside the Central Coast Leagues Club, and there's Charles, a wonderful concierge.
Yes.
Presumably shaking your hand, not telling you where to go.
Yeah, that's right. I had him posed to do that one. He enjoyed it.
He's a wonderful ambassador for the Leagues Club, and there again now we're inside the club.
That's right. And from here now you can literally walk around as if you were there to get a sense of the space and understand exactly what is actually available in the
There's someone
club.
I know.
Yeah.
Sitting on the couch.
Yeah, that was a familiar face, wasn't it?
I think I signed a release note for that.
Exactly.
That's wonderful.
That's right.
Really wonderful stuff. Yeah. So this gives people... now we've gone to somewhere totally new. I mean, take us where we are now. I know we've gone up to the second level here.
That's right. This over here is the clip and climb, of which is another portion of the Leagues Club building. another business in here. And this is what's particularly fascinating is you notice we went from the Leagues Club, which is one organization, over to now the Clip and Climb, which is a separate business in the same premise, but virtually seamlessly from one to the next.
Fantastic.
And that's what's beautiful about these.
So
these
big
360.
organised, big shopping centres, big places, big multi-dwelling units, as you were. You can just jump from one to the next.
Exactly, by having what's basically called a custom virtual tour.
Right.
So we have the capacity to navigate from location to location, and then if you want to go back and get a bird's eye view once again, you simply just click back on that first top image, and you're back out to the.
So you're looking
Gosford
at
view.
Look, this is really exciting because I know many people will know the sort of the collective passion for Gosford. You know, the gigabit city of the future, with its wonderful stadium, its waterfront, and its fantastic businesses that are hidden away. Really.
That's right.
So this effectively shows them off to the outside world and then sucks them into the wonderful places that are.
That's right.
And the wonderful thing about this is like we have shots all around the coast, and that ties it all through. And when we go down to the Google space as well, you know.
Well, that's where we start getting real traction because, of course, Google has become a sort of a 94% business in Australia. 94% of people use Google daily. It's an incredible figure. It's in fact, I understand, one of the highest figures globally. Australia's taken to Google. Much like it's taken to, more so than all the football codes put together. So it really is an amazingly useful tool. We're going to talk to someone briefly about this because you need to actually be found on Google. And there's a fellow who's a professional here in the studio, Danis, and Danis might talk about how we could possibly use this imagery and how do we embed it on Google. So we're going to invite Danis over to the couch and say, well, how do we possibly get this into Google?
Well, it's a good
Welcome,
question,
Danis.
Dave.
Welcome, Danis.
It's a
big
good-looking
couch.
Yeah, that's
It's
right.
a really good looking couch.
Middle-aged man, mate.
That's
well,
right.
That's right. We might be able to fit one more in there. If they were particularly good looking.
That's
okay, Danis.
Well, the first thing, and this is one of the most basic things that you can do, and I'm quite astounded actually by the lack of take-up this has been. The very first step that you want to do is actually register your business onto Google. Now, this really is a simple job, and it really only takes 5 minutes. All you need to do to start off is to go to google.com/business. There you'll be able to sign up for an account, register with an email address that you have, or register with a Google email that you have. Fill in the details, make sure all your business details are correct, your logo, some of your imagery, your name, your telephone number, your address, and more importantly, your opening hours.
Danis, I'm just going to pause you there. I'm going to ask Les, our director producer here, to go on to another way that you may be able to find whether your business is registered or listed at all. We've found, we've picked on a local business/organisation in the Ocean Beach Surf Lifesaving Club down there at the wonderful Ocean Beach just south of us here. And we see that there is a point there that says Ocean Beach Surf Lifesaving Club, but it seems to be that the only image there is one that's taken presumably by the Google Street vans that are driven around and taken an image. We also have a bit of a look on the left-hand side in the listing. It says here, claim this business. There's not much information about it. There is a telephone number I see and a URL that presumably Google's picked up. So what is that another way of actually claiming your business through the maps?
Yes, that's correct. Google actually does scrape websites and directories as well.
Yeah. So it sucks in what it can
to pre-populate some of these fields, but they're not necessarily always going to be correct and accurate.
Right. Sure.
So this is again one of the other ways of claiming that business listing is by searching for the business on Google. See what Google has on that business, and you can see down there just below the phone number.
Claim this business.
When you click that link, it'll take you to the My Business page.
The one that you were talking about previously?
That's right. And you can then fill out the rest of the details, and then afterwards try to verify that listing to make sure then you then have the rights to then edit that information.
Now, the sort of things that you might want, verifying something. I know Google is very careful about verifying this information because it wants the right people owning the verification. Presumably, you'll probably, I'm guessing that you'll probably need to have some sort of Google account, Gmail account, or something similar to actually help steer this whole thing. Is that correct?
Yeah. So you'll need a Google account. You can register for a Google account using your existing email, or you can set a Gmail account up in order to create a Google account.
Right. So once you do that, how does that sort of process? What is the process? What does Google do to verify that you are who you say you are?
Well, once you fill in your details, Google will then ask you to verify your listing. Then it does that through several methods. One of them is via a phone call. It's not often that you get this option. The other option that's more common is via postcard. So Google will actually send you a verification
These are the famous
code.
postcards that we've been educating people about.
Yeah. So Google will actually send you a postcard containing a 5-digit PIN or 6-digit PIN, perhaps now it's 6 digits, to the actual address of the business. And that's how Google then verifies that listing and makes sure that you
So that goes to their street address, not a post box, I note, to their street address. They pick it up, they log into their Google account they use to actually register the business, and that effectively verifies that the business is who it says it is.
Yes. Yep.
What do you do from there? Now this is where, because we're getting somewhere here, because we need to populate that with amazing, sort of digital assets, as it were. What once we've registered that, what is the sort of information we can put into that account that's useful for people searching for you on maps and all over the Google network?
Apart from the business name, telephone number, address, and opening hours, of course, then comes the imagery.
Right. Well, I'll pause you there. The opening hours. Now, that's something I noticed that isn't listed on many listings. People presumably haven't entered those, but that's massively important, I would imagine. If you go into a bar, a cafe, or you go into a studio or a shopping centre, people want to know what opening hours are, so they're not left out in the cold, as it were. So you can edit that when you go onto your Google account once it's verified?
Yes, that's right. Once it's verified, you can edit that anytime you want.
Presumably, could you do this? If you're going on holidays and you haven't got a locum, as it were, you could actually go on, and for the period of time that you're away, whether it's a few days or a couple of weeks, you could actually say, put that up on your listing. Is that correct?
That's right. Yeah, as soon as you make those changes on Google My Business, it goes live within minutes.
Right, that's fantastic stuff. For small businesses, that must be wonderful stuff to say that, we're flexible. Make sure you look up on maps or elsewhere to see when we're open. Now, this information is not only available on Google Maps, it's available on other Google assets, I take it, when you do search and so on.
Yeah, Google uses that information on various different platforms. So, for example, Google Plus pages will take information from Google My Business. Google AdWords can also take information from Google My Business. Even Maps.
Yep.
We'll
talk about that in a minute, because it's one thing getting all the basics. This is kind of business hygiene, really, isn't it? You get your business hygiene, get yourself listed. It's like the white pages were, but totally dynamically. Of course, now we need to kind of ramp it up, make it look really attractive. And this is what these other two gentlemen are here in the couch for today. How do we make that fantastic? Because I know, Marc, you've got some ideas, particularly about how to make.
Absolutely.
How do you link what we saw previously to this?
You'll find that just as Danis was explaining, as soon as you've actually verified your business, one of the things that comes up in the panel is a set of tools to help make it look good.
So this is when you're logged in as a business owner.
As a business. Now you actually you're in the process of verifying your page. What you can then do is click on a section that says add photos. Now there are two sets of types of photos that you can add in. And some of them, a lot of businesses might be able to do themselves, but of course if they get a professional photographer to take the images, they'll look better, because that's the whole idea behind that. But there's also a second button there that says add a virtual tour.
I see. So that's actually there.
That's
ready
right.
to go. And now, let me pause here because this is the certification process. That
Yeah.
both of these gentlemen are professionals, and that's why they're in the couch. I mean, we know many people try these things themselves. You get one chance often to have a look at a business, and if you make it look scruffy, it's scruffy in people's minds for a long time. So you're a Google certified VR photographer. So what's that all about?
The whole process of becoming certified is actually something that, as you I'm sure know, the whole Google infrastructure changes an awful lot. So they're constantly changing the rules and opening it up to more and more people so that they can also become trusted. That said, it doesn't change the fact that quality comes from people who understand how to create good imagery. And the principles behind, this is an example of
right now. I know Les has brought up one of my
clients,
a colourful client.
Yes.
This is a kayak store, presumably.
That's right.
I think I know where that is.
It's actually in West.
Far away.
Yeah, it's actually in West Gosford. It's Kayak Central Coast.
Fantastic.
And this is an example of a virtual tour that I've created for them. Now, just to give you an idea how this is done, it's essentially the same thing that what Dave Inwood was saying about how he stitches a lot of images together.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit luckier in a sense that I'm at ground level, so I don't have to have a
little bit more control over yourself.
That's right. I don't have to deal with what I call the ultimate tripod in the sky, which is particularly challenging when you're doing that and you're trying to keep exactly the same spot. Whereas I've actually got a tripod attached to the ground. I'm fortunate that way. What I then do is I actually do the same type of photography where I'm taking multiple images all the way around and then stitching them together to create a 360-degree
And
image.
I noticed before with the Leagues Club, it's not, you can actually move through a store, or I can see here, it would appear that you do have hot links, buttons that you can find out presumably about the products or something else.
That's right. So what we're actually looking at right now is in fact a combination of both a Google Street View virtual tour.
Yes.
And what we're doing is we're using Google's infrastructure to host the images. They're giving us a place to say, hey, if you want to show your virtual tour, we're not going to charge you a cost for hosting the images themselves. You just got to pay the photographer to actually do the imagery for you. That said, if you're really trying to, as I call it, put your virtual tour on steroids, you may want to look at how you can add additional information inside that image, and you can then click on buttons, call-ups, features that'll give you additional information. That would actually only be visible once you get to that business's website, for example, or it's not seen directly on Google Maps. What we're doing is, I call it a visual sandwich.
So you're putting a layer on top.
That's right. It's the top layer of that sandwich that we put on top that gives specialized controls so that the end viewer can get a sense of what else can I see inside the business.
So this has really come a long way. I mean, I know there's not many people aware of the power of this. I mean, it's our collective dream that, you know, the Central Coast / Australia / the world, or the bits that we love, get on board on this, because getting people inside a business these days seems to be a bit of a tough gig.
That's right, that's right. And one of the things that's particularly important to remember is that Google may not necessarily have, and this is something that Danis can address a lot better than I can in terms of the technical side of how imagery actually works in terms of search and search results. But the fact of the matter is we all know that if a business looks good,
well, this one does.
You know,
this is the Nexus Smart Hub, isn't it?
Actually, no. This is the Coast Bar Restaurant.
This is just
the
down here by the waterfront.
That's
this
right.
is fantastic, newly renovated. Well, I haven't been in there yet with that floor.
That's right.
It's really quite stunning. And frankly, emotionally, I want to go down and have a look at that. And I guess this is the power of what we're talking about.
Exactly. So when you actually have the ability to have a look around for yourself, and in using cafes, restaurants, bars as an example, if you're actually hosting an event and you want to have a sense of the size and space, you're going to be having, let's say, a table of 12 people, or it could be 30 or 50 people. It's much easier to get a sense of how that space will work for your function.
Is there a pizza oven in there, Marc?
It is, yeah. And they make great pizzas.
Very compelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very compelling stuff.
But in this particular case, I actually did this virtual tour shoot at night. You'll probably notice that if you actually look outside, and you can, if I can get less than maybe spin right around, facing 180 degrees the other way around, you'll actually see that this location.
Wow.
I shot at night. There's actually a boat that actually parked up.
How cool is that?
Fabulous, isn't it? And the
Can
best,
we go on the boat, mate?
No, it's somebody else's boat, actually. You could always ask. You could always
that's
ask.
Wonderful.
But the whole idea behind that, obviously, is that when I'm actually doing these virtual tours for cafes and restaurants, I tend to do them when they're empty.
Yeah.
And that's actually a question I get an awful lot, is why would I actually want to have a virtual tour of a space that doesn't have people in it? It actually helps to understand how you, as a consumer, as a viewer, could use that space for your function or your activity.
It's kind of like being let in out of hours and viewing the establishment.
Exactly.
I must say, there's a kind of voyeur thing to this, where you're actually going in and saying, having a look around, maybe even just being in there when you're not meant to be there, casing the tour, as it were, which we won't go into, but I'm sure that you take that into account.
It's interesting you mention that, because every once in a while I will have that as a question. People will say, hey, aren't people going to use it for that? And I say, well, actually, don't you have cameras? It's a 360-degree image. You're going to see the cameras. It's actually making the place probably safer.
Very good idea. Very good idea. Now, you've got some other examples here from here. Here we have with the Wild Milk Factory, which is really a stunning place. I mean, it sounds very nondescript, but it's turned into a bit of an entrepreneurial hub, hasn't it?
It has.
I notice here the tour starts really from Google, presumably, Danis. This is starting from Google Maps, and you click further in. This is to say, so we're going beyond the normal Google Maps shoot. Is that correct?
Yeah. So what we're seeing here is what the Google cars, the images that the Google cars actually take, and then I believe what Marc's then sort of extending that view into the premise itself, where the car doesn't actually go.
Yeah, now that's interesting. That is really interesting, because of course many of us have seen the street views as the Google cars driven around and presumably keep driving around Australia and around parts of the world. But very often we hear that people say, well, they didn't get my business properly because they just drove right past. And they might have driven past on a particularly crappy day, for example, or somebody blocking the view or something.
Exactly.
So you can professionalise this.
That's right.
And basically brush it up.
Exactly. I actually take the time, as a good commercial photographer should, and as Dave and I, we make a point of making sure that what we do is we go in when the weather's right, when the lighting conditions are correct. We help to stage the space appropriately, so that if there's a table that's in the way, or there's somebody who scribbled something on a whiteboard, we make
doing a great professional
making it
job,
look right. Exactly, and advising businesses as to what will actually be the best way for them to present themselves. As you mentioned, in terms of the backgrounds, I actually have a background in retail prior to doing this, so understanding how retailers and business premises need to look so that they actually look good from a merchandising perspective is something I can also lend a hand with as I actually do the photography.
So look, we've touched on, we may come back to a couple of those. I'd like to flip back up into the sky and actually have a little look about this stunning above the ground view. But we might just indulge David to actually talk to us about how you do that. Now, he's been so good as to bring one of his drones, and it does kind of look drone-ish, future orientated. Many of us have wondered about these things, and you've been so good to bring one into the studio here. So we're looking at one here, Dave. What are we looking at here?
This is by brand. It's actually a company, DJI. It's called the Inspire 1 Pro. This is obviously termed a quadcopter, being 4 blades.
Yep.
With this is actually a transforming design, so at the moment you can see it in its landing mode.
When you say transforming design, what
it does basically, when it goes up, it then transforms into an inverted V.
So this is like Transformers, as it were, to a smaller.
Kids get a real kick out of it. Actually, it's something that I really quite often I'll need to have a spotter or. I'll use the term crowd control near me if I'm near a public space, because it's the kids that get very excited about these, and their imagination just goes wild. It's sort of like, we can learn a lot from our kids, so we should listen to them. So when this goes up, it transforms in design, and basically it provides a lot more stability. Also, the other benefit it is, it enables us to do a full 360 degree.
So that control, that's why we get such beautifully stable photography, presumably.
That's right, exactly. Obviously, it uses GPS-based technology to maintain its location. the things that we need to keep our eye on when it comes to that. GPS, as we know, has its moments, but in our line of work, we mitigate that. We understand how that technology works. It's a very stable design. Up in strong winds, 18 knots plus, you won't even notice it.
Really?
I've got
Is that
video
right?
footage
Is that right?
of in actually slightly stronger gust breezes, and you wouldn't even notice.
So it's self-stabilising. So all this stuff we read about, not many of us have the opportunity actually to see these things, but all this stuff we read about, or some of us read about these things being very durable and very stable, is true.
Yes, look, obviously on the design we've got gimbal balanced camera, so that helps an awful lot.
Right.
With your photography and your videography. The main thing that people tend to misunderstand with drones is that you just fly it up and it's doing everything.
Well, that's kind of like the thing that's being talked about. I mean, we're all imagining the future and deliveries and all sorts of other things, and I see people down at the beach or at public parks having a go and, chasing things and being slightly irresponsible. But which brings us to the point is, you're a CASA approved drone operator, and I know you've spent a lot of time and presumably money going through the rules and the regulations of what you can do and what you can't do. Tell us a little bit about that without going into too much detail.
CASA, being the acronym for Civil Aviation Safety Authority, the authority that handles all civil aviation flight regulations and safety, also governs regulation over the use of drones, both privately and commercially. So to operate commercially, we need to be certified pilots. Regulations are changing a little bit in the coming week. You'll probably see some of it on the news. People need to be very mindful about that because there's a lot of misinformation going out with that. So I've done training courses. When we go through, our company gets certified for CASA. We have to provide flight manuals, maintenance manuals, pilot logs.
So basically, like you're a light aircraft.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes. No. Definitely. To the point that we do job safety assessments. Which means that sometimes there are times there where you say to a client, look, honestly, it's not going to happen. Great idea, but the safety is just not there.
Well, that's kind of reassuring to know, because at the moment my dream of the drone future is it's all a little bit out of control, that the industry's sort of taken off so quickly that I know a lot of people are worried about their own privacy, about things falling out of the sky on on beaches and other places like that. So it's kind of good to know there's some good regulation there.
Look, if Les puts on some video, you'll see the steadiness of the drones. We use the term drone. It's a word that people are commonly.
Where are we looking at here?
That's at Edelong, beautiful Edelong.
Oh, okay. Yeah, right at Box Head and Lobster Beach, I think that is.
Yes. So I think we all know that place very well. So once again, this is just showing how smooth the footage can be.
It's remarkably smooth.
It comes a lot into the piloting capabilities as well. It's not just simply relying upon the device to do it. Post-production comes a lot into it as well. So we tend to shoot slightly underexposed so we can get more detail.
Stunning shot.
Understanding, for example, in this flight here, there's a helipad just over the hill. We know for the hospital there. There's another one a kilometre and a half slightly north of that. The regulations require that you have a spotter and that you're actually authorised to do flights in
I
those
noticed
areas.
too, Dave, you had your radio, which was you had your radio here. So you do tune into presumably helicopters and other things that are moving around, and we see that quite often in this part of the world.
As a certified operator, one of the requirements are that you actually have a radio operator's license. It's called an AROC. That mainly is used as a listening device.
To see what's in the area.
We do broadcast when we're close to airports and helipads and so forth like that. Say, look, we're doing flight, just to give a little bit of notice to aircraft around. Obviously, our aim is always to be out of their way.
Yeah.
So the moment we hear chatter
Yeah.
saying coming down the coast,
Yeah.
so you go, okay, it's going to be 5 minutes
Yeah.
before we're there, or 2 minutes. I
Yeah.
know where they are.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring it down, let them pass, and then I can always go up again.
Fantastic.
So live for another day. Sort
You
of
know, this
scenario.
really is reassuring because we don't know this stuff, and people
No,
are
many
assuming,
people don't.
and I think a lot of people are assuming as soon as they see a drone, it's some sort of rogue operator that's having a bit of a go and bought it recently and just having a fly. It's really reassuring to know there's a lot of regulation about it. I mean, these shots are distractingly beautiful, I must say. Look, this is at the lighthouse.
We have a
in
beautiful
Norahend.
location.
We do,
Central
don't we?
Coast. We're very fortunate on that.
We
so,
sure do, and look, I mean, part of this whole thing is to show it off. I mean, there's Norahend Lighthouse, and if whoever runs Norahend Lighthouse, which I think is the council, I'm not sure actually. I know there's a lovely, you can stay there at Norahend.
Yes.
I mean, if I was that business and I'm looking at that now, I'm going to say I really want to show that off in a drone way, and possibly, and then delve into the rooms and
Exactly.
to come into a way. No, we really want regions to show off what they got. God, that's
I did
fascinating.
an aerial 360 of that.
Yeah.
Posted it to Facebook, and it just went viral.
Yeah, I can
It was
imagine.
amazing because a lot of people, when it's places that
Yeah.
is local or close and dear to them, or they've been there,
Yes.
they want to share it.
Yeah.
And so as a business, it
Well,
was a great
I-
way of me getting my name out there, because people were just tagging other people's names, saying,
Brilliant.
"Oh, we went fishing off that rock."
Yeah.
I remember our young days
Yeah.
here and things like that. So it's really great to see those personal comments come into it.
Well, I know some people from Central Coast Tourism or Tourism New South Wales or Australia perhaps are looking at some of this stuff, because it strikes me here that professional photography in this regard is something that is very enticing. You really want to go out. I want to go and visit Terrigal now. It looks great. I haven't
it's a great
seen
place.
that view from that angle before. It really does accentuate the beauty of the area.
And you're hitting it on the mark. The sort of where drones. I'll stick to drones. And the common official term now is an RPA.
Okay, which stands for?
remotely piloted aircraft.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Because we'll see that
also
acronym
known
around.
as UAVs.
Yeah.
There's all sorts of other.
Now UAV is
unmanned aerial vehicle.
okay.
So,
Gotcha.
but most people and certainly the media
Yeah.
recognise it as drones, and they're not as frowned upon in that name these days.
Yeah.
Obviously, they have their time,
Yeah.
but so it works well in that respect. So, but we're in a space that it's personal.
Yep.
Like we're flying at a height now
Yeah.
that people can equate to. They
Yeah.
can start to harmonise
Well,
with.
you're thinking you're like a pelican, really. That's how the smoothness of this strikes me that here is a pelican soaring a long way up, but it strikes me that you almost feel like you've got literally a bird's eye view.
And that's at its maximum legal height.
Right. Okay.
We have a maximum height of 120 metres, 400 feet. So it's surprising how far, as you can see here,
Wow.
how far you can see from that height. So
Yeah.
some clients will come back and say, "Look, we need this."
Yeah.
I had one recently. I said, "No, look, that was taken about 1,500 feet."
Wow.
But when I showed them other footage, they sort of said, "Look, no, that's great. Do it at the height."
Here we have a look at that wonderful poppy exhibition earlier in the year at around Anzac Day.
That
really
had
stunning.
on Facebook over 35,000 views.
I saw that and I thought, wow. I didn't know you'd done that, and I thought, wow, that is really
That was
stunning.
a really windy day too.
It was, wasn't it? That's
It
right.
was really gusting big time.
So this is a real challenge for you.
You'll even notice under this a small drone flying in a few seconds.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, there we go. Yeah.
Like-
yeah. It's getting
True.
buffeted around. a bit.
I've seen some pretty unfortunate footage from that environment.
Yeah.
That operation there is not legal.
No.
Too close to the public and all that. Everything that I do is saying, look.
Well, I guess that's a big deal, particularly if you're talking about businesses, community groups, organisations, government bodies. I mean, you need to have that sort of responsibility line going.
We've got public liability insurance, and it's actually aviation class. It's specific for flying drones.
Fantastic.
So if you're just a small business and saying,
Yeah.
look, I want to fly a drone and I'm going to rely upon my business insurance, it's not going to work.
That's
that's. I
That's
think that's a bit of
very,
extra
very
comfort that
interesting.
people have.
Wow, that's really fascinating stuff. So I'd like to see if we can sew this back, because all this is about is creating assets for your business or your organisation, whatever it be, a tourist group or a wonderful restaurant, a cafe, a car studio or mayor. Up here on the Central Coast and much of regional Australia, we can take advantage of these, these assets that we have, the beauty, the clear air, all of these sort of things. I'd like to go back and see how we can use those assets in a sort of a coordinated way. So we're going to ask Les to have a little peek, go back to where we started from, to wrap this into something that people can imagine they can use. We started with the Gosford thing, and I noticed you guys have worked together to create that map with a clickable link so that we can go into things.
Exactly.
While Les is doing that, remember this is live and local here at the Central Coast Leagues Club, which is in fact just here, just next to the stadium. The studio here is available to use. We have a wonderful green wall behind us, and that's how we're projecting. We're using some fantastic, we've got our producer Les here, and we have various business partners here that allow this to happen. VPA, which has lent us a fantastic computer that allows us to do all of this. And this is also a bit of an R&D space for all sorts of things to do with high-speed internet. It's available for everyone to use. So in that little segue, we're going back here to this sort of ultimate sew-in. We've got the drones and we've got the virtual VR. Where can we put this, Mark? Where can we put it?
First and foremost, think of actually putting it where people are going to look for it, which is in a Google search.
Yep.
That's, as you said earlier on, 94% of Australian search is Google. And when this imagery can be found directly in a Google search, you'll see there's either going to be what's called a knowledge panel or a places page. And probably best to get to Danis again to talk about more about that. But you'll actually see either the moniker says "See Inside," or you'll see photos. All right. Or you'll see a little circle with a little arrow on it, which is very similar to what my logo is, which is it helps people understand that this is going to be a round image. In other words, a 360-degree image. By the way, just for fun, the technical term for a round image or a 360 is a photosphere. Google. So if you ever hear anybody talk about photospheres, they're round because you're basically like a bug inside of the image. Right. And that's really what it is. So those are the kinds of ways that what's actually going to be found on Google search is these types of images. That's the first point of call.
So when we're looking for, let's just say we're looking for your client down there on the Gosford waterfront. We say Gosford waterfront restaurant.
Exactly.
These are the sort of images, preferably when we use a bit of the magic of Google, because we can use some of these assets to bring them forward, as it were, with SEO and search engine marketing, AdWords and various other things to raise the popularity of these things, Danis. So we've got good assets to show when people look. So from there, what do we do? What else can we do?
We can then take that same imagery and add it as a link on a Facebook page. There's a utility that's available for, it's desktop only at this moment in time. It's a matter of Facebook allowing...
And this is Facebook 360, is that
This is actually, single images can be posted on Facebook 360, which I have done on several occasions, and so has Dave. But virtual tours themselves can be added as a button or as a link.
So at the moment, it's a link that you delve into.
That's right. No different than the About link on your Facebook page or your hours of operation. You're going to have one that says "Look Inside," and that'll actually give you a relink to the same virtual tour.
Gotcha.
And it'll actually show up as a panel.
Now, is that a separate hosted separately by Facebook, or is it actually, do they utilise the infrastructure of Google in that way?
They actually do, which is one of the few moments in time when you'll actually see Google and Facebook. I won't say they're getting along, but they're allowing each other to exist or coexist, which is a good thing.
Well, it's good for us because it makes it slightly simpler.
It does, and Google as a hosting system is so powerful. You know, they've got servers worldwide. The speed is good. That's what allows it to work as well as it does.
Well, really, that's what what we use here in the infrastructure. I mean, good servers is an important thing.
It is.
And it's amazing, really, if you think about it, that Google and Facebook allow us to use the power of their servers
right.
virtually for nothing to serve up to our customers.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The next level beyond that is when it's actually found in a business's website.
Yes.
All right.
So we're hosting our own website here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're actually hosting your own website, you say, I would love to have that same imagery be part of my website. In fact, I want it embedded as being an integral part of my website.
Now, I know HTML5 allows these wonderful images. I noticed, Dave, on your website, bravodrones.com.au, that you go and you watch these wonderfully slow-moving images that you put up around the countryside, which are very compelling. I must say, you sit there and you want to watch just to make it, just to see the vista that is used. How's it been for your side? Do people go there and look at this?
Oh yes, definitely. Since I've started doing specifically the 360s, there's been a lot of interest on that. I have a client up Nelson Bay of all places that has used that for the real estate marketing.
Yeah, wonderful.
We'll be doing so again soon. So they're seeing the bigger picture. They're seeing that the clients are watching their pages more often.
For longer, I would imagine.
Longer, exactly. I've even, and once again, I said earlier on Facebook, reading some of those posts that people go, so somebody said, wow, have a look at this. I've just wasted half an hour spinning, And
this is in our day where people slam each other all the time. It's nice to hear good stuff.
True, they weren't being negative in any sense. Have a look at this. How did they do this? And other ones were saying, look, there's nothing there. There's nothing up. There's nothing down. How did they do it? Sort of thing. So it's a few tricks of the trade. Certainly enables us to get that technology out there. Pride in what I put out as well is another big thing. Sometimes it's a matter of I'm just not happy with that, so I'll go reshoot it.
So quality is a big thing. I know you two lads, or all three of you, are professionals in this. So we go an extra step, and having been in the tech business for a long time, I know that there's so much out there that I think naturally what you do is you draw your eye gets drawn to quality because it's the way you differentiate things. So I guess that's what you're saying. I'm gonna throw a wild ball here to Danis and say, what else do you think we could do with these sort of photographic assets?
Well, probably something that not a lot of people are aware is that when you do a Google search, if you tag your images correctly, make sure your title tags are correct, you give the file names a meaningful name, and also put in the correct alt tags, that these images can actually appear on Google search as well under the images.
Right. Now, images, I know, is a very popular thing. People increasingly see Google in that way, don't they? They actually search natively in images. So you're saying that some of these stunning images might in fact come up high up in the image search.
Yeah, let's take for example that we talked briefly about Gosford Waterfront.
Yes.
How beautiful it is. We've seen some incredible footages from the drone.
Yeah.
We've seen how Marc has taken 360 tours from within the business, one of the businesses being the Coast Bar and Restaurant.
Yes.
Now imagine if someone were to come up from Sydney and wanted to go to the Gosford Waterfront.
Yeah.
They search for Gosford Waterfront to try and get directions to there.
Yeah.
And then imagine if they had their images tagged correctly, it appears on the search results, and they say, oh, that's a wonderful place, that's a great place for us to take a break. Guess what they're going to do? They're going to click to your website.
And if you click through, even on the maps, you'll see the opening hours.
Yeah, exactly.
You'll see the telephone number. You'll see their own website, so you can get more information about it. And you can have a wonderful walkthrough. I mean, this is powerful stuff if you get it coordinated, isn't it?
Yeah. So you're thinking about from a generic search of a particular location, you can all of a sudden find a business that's very relevant to what you're doing right now.
Les is demonstrating a Google search to do with presumably Gosford Waterfront there, or just Gosford there. These, I mean, I can see that aerial shots, quality photos come up quite high already.
That's right.
Without really us doing a huge amount to do with it. So you're saying that by doing this in a coordinated fashion, we're going to raise the bar for everybody.
You can further optimize where those images come up in the results list.
Yes.
It's interesting also that not that long ago at a Google conference, I'm trying to remember the gentleman's first name, his last name is Armstrong.
Yeah.
He's one of the leaders of the Google Street View program.
Yeah.
Specifically said that Google ranks on quality.
Yes, and we are told that as Google partners, you see up behind us. We're one of the first in the country. We like to tell everyone that we're not the biggest, but we're the smartest. That's OI, Organise Internet. We're told very often that quality counts. I guess that's mirrored in what he was saying there.
That's right, and they do actually care about the quality because it has a data purpose.
Yes.
And what I mean by a data purpose, and this is something that Danis and I were talking about just the other day, of you know how face detection works, right?
Yeah,
We all know,
yeah,
we've all seen
yeah.
this face detection technology nowadays on Facebook where it recognizes
Yeah.
you. Google now has it as basically take face detection onto anything.
So
If
you're
you-
saying that it actually categorizes?
It can.
Yeah.
It can. So if you were to give Google a photo of a plate of pasta, it can tell you if it's linguine.
Yeah.
You know, it's really that brilliant.
I can think about the algorithm having.
That's right. You know, so there's a certain amount of, they're moving more and more towards that. And the reason why they're doing that is not because of it due to images that are low grade, because it won't have the data to be able to verify and identify and qualify.
Yeah.
It's doing that because of good images.
Right, so quality in images is really
It really
important
is.
because it allows basically the Google brain, if you will, to recognise what
That's
it
right.
is, and presumably increasingly that will become, there'll be patterns that will be recognised all over the world. So quality image
It does
works
matter.
as far as ranking's concerned, just
That's
for
right.
quality's sake.
Exactly.
Yeah, I see.
Exactly.
It's not something I've thought about directly in relation to imagery before, but very, very interesting. So I know. Look, we've done a 360 here.
Yeah.
We really have. I mean, we've had a look at from above. We've had a look at getting on the map, and then we've had a look at showing yourself off inside your premises or your location, wherever that may be. I'd like to have a little bit of a look at a couple of businesses. Hopefully, Les, our super producer, who's off camera, is really doing all the work here.
Yeah.
And we're going to. I'd love to show up a couple of clients that you people have. One of them, a wonderful place, and we love talking about them, is the Nexus Smart Hub, which I think was a wonderful shoot. A client of ours collectively has a wonderful smart workplace in North Wyong, and one thing that struck me about your shoot is really does make that place inviting. You really want to go there and just check it out, because
Absolutely.
it sort of is something that's, you don't really think it exists in Wyong, frankly, but it's really beautiful.
Yeah,
it's a beautiful
it's
place
a great
to work.
facility.
It's a great space.
Yeah.
So we'll let Les work on trying to find that next.
While he's bringing that up, he's just brought it up now.
Yeah.
One of the things that I think is particularly fascinating with, and this is actually a custom virtual tour that I've built also for them. You'll notice that there's navigation on the left-hand
I
side.
have, yeah.
One of the things that's particularly useful with these custom virtual tours, and this would apply whether it be for myself or for Dave, because we deal often with large spaces.
Yeah.
We can talk about small spaces differently, but with large spaces, a virtual tour, if it's really big, with a lot of stops along the way, it makes it, dare I say it, a bit boring if they have to go through a lot of hallways to get to the right room.
Yeah. Yeah,
Whereas
I know
if you've
what
got
you mean.
navigation on the actual tour that takes you from space to space very
I can
quickly
see on
and
the left-hand
efficiently.
side, you jump. If I want to have a look at the boardroom,
Yeah.
because it's a very popular thing to
Sure.
rent boardrooms.
Exactly.
I know it's a problem up here on the coast finding one
That's right.
that's good enough. but-
So you can
yeah,
go
right.
directly to that location,
Yep.
and on top of that, with these custom tours, we can also add additional information. As that image will spin around, in fact, eventually you'll get to a point where it'll actually bring up a pop-up information screen.
Right, okay.
And that pop-up information screen can basically be any text you want. It can be a description of the room, it could be the pricing,
Yep.
it could be, in fact, it could even be a book now option,
right.
because it would be
Yeah,
a
of
hot
course.
link.
Yeah.
In fact, on the very opening screen of this particular tour, you'll actually see where it says "Watch
Welcome
a
video,
we all know Sonia
Yeah.
very well.
Yeah.
She was recorded on a prior YouTube,
Yeah.
and we can leverage and reuse existing content that's out on the net.
So
to
this
actually
becomes
play
a
this back.
platform of leveraging your existing assets as well.
Exactly. So you can reuse content you've already
Fantastic.
produced.
That's fantastic.
All right.
Because we need to leverage. One thing that I'm passionate about is joining the dots in this digital world. And this seems to be a place where, a natural place. Maps are a wonderful place to join the dots. And I wasn't aware actually of that video, because I saw the video previously that you'd embedded it here.
Yeah. It's just one more way we can actually create compelling content.
They're fantastic things. Dave, what is your last little appeal to people on the East Coast, West Coast, South Coast, North Coast of Australia? I'm sure you'd love to be paid to be flown all over the place. What other closing appeal would you say to people using this new business photography?
Look, probably the main thing of it is to think of out of the box.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
It's just saying, look, people can give you photos, 100 photos that they've snapped on the ground.
Yeah.
You know, that's sort of not showing anything different.
Yeah.
This is really about providing a point of view that somebody can go, wow, that is different. I'm interested in it. I'm seeing more detail on it. Like we have clients that, real estate work that the house is nestled in amongst a whole bunch of trees.
Yeah.
You know, from any view, unless you're a couple of metres from the front door, you're not going to get a sense of how beautiful it is, or what's around it.
So it strikes me that that was a wonderful thing you said. I think come up with ideas, because immediately I'm thinking of ideas. Yesterday when we were going through a dry run here, we're thinking of all sorts of ideas, and I noticed you just didn't say anything. Yeah. Because you're trying, presumably, to get the people to dream up their own ideas.
It's true. Yeah. You get some really interesting ones. Some painting power poles with a drone. That's even out there. Trust me.
It is.
Probably not in a working sense yet, but it probably will be soon. All those sort of ideas come in. From a visual standpoint, it's just. Sometimes the client has an idea of what they think is the best shot.
Yeah.
We always aim to shoot that, what they believe, and probably 8 times out of 10, that is it. But as we're up there, there's a lot of free space.
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm thinking. It just makes you think in a sort of an R&D fashion that there's so many applications you could use this to visualise your business. I mean, if you were an organic farm, for example, and wanted to show off your beautiful countryside, wonderful. But maybe even on a practical level, you might be able to use the drone footage to identify various ecosystems.
That's right, exactly. Crop sensing. They've even got drones now that actually have bird scarers on them.
Yeah, really.
So not just the drone going zzz like that. Actually, the proper bird scarers on them. So farmers.
That'd be good footage, Dave. I reckon. Chasing the cockies through the sky.
I just want to put a bit of Nirvana on it or something like that. Fly up and see what happens there. So look, the world's ultimately the oyster when it comes to drones. My space. I love photography and videography. There's a lot of post services that I can provide. Once again, the client has an idea. When we're up there, we see views that sometimes just work better than what was imagined. So it's just trying to work with what we got. We can fly indoors as well. Yeah. So obviously certain spaces are not suitable, but we're able to do that sort of work. So
to do fly-throughs.
Exactly.
Look, thanks for touching on what we're doing. I know, Marc, I'm going to throw to you just for the thing, but thanks for touching on what you're doing, and we'll wrap this up in a minute because I've got an idea to wrap this up. What's your last little appeal to people in this regard?
It's going to sound a bit odd, but it's get off of stock photography.
Oh, I love it.
Because
employ some locals. And,
this is one of the things. It's a combination of look at your business image. Overall, the photos on your website, the photos on Google search, the photos on Facebook, and think, is this actually telling the right story about my business?
That's a really good question. That is a really good question.
It really is something that, having been in the retail trade for many years, I spent 15, 20 years in retail. I knew that if I didn't actually project the right image all the time, no matter which way it was projected, it could affect my business. And locally, what happens, and it's not to say anything negative about local businesses, success really comes over time when people have good quality content to share. And we can become a little complacent with that at times.
It's easy to. We get busy. I mean, I'm thinking right now, holy moly, what have I got on there? I mean, I haven't done actually an audit of my business images. That's
right, and you know, and I'll be quite candid with you. I'm more than happy to share some ideas.
I know you are. You're always happy, Marc, to share ideas.
Yes, and it's things. It ranges from good headshots, you know, product shots. The virtual tour tends to be an everything shot. If a picture's worth 1,000 words, what does a virtual tour say? It says everything.
It does. It shows it together.
It's right. You know, my business motto is, "What do you want people to see?" It's quite simply that. So think of those in those terms. Of what is it that you want people to see about who you are as a business, so that when they find you, they go, "That's it. These are the people I want to do business with."
I really like that. And Danis, what would your last appeal be in this regard?
Last appeal. Get onto Google.
Yeah.
Register your business with Google My Business.
Yeah.
So because that then becomes where you can actually upload the assets that these guys can produce for you and show off your business correctly and properly and professionally.
And presumably you can tweak those to make them more available to people when they go looking.
Yes.
That's right. Look, that's a wonderful thing to sew it up. Look, my idea on this is maps are. Having been a lover of maps, and many people are, it's a wonderful way of communicating, I've noticed. And we look at the Google statistics as far as the use of maps are concerned, and I'm very aware that Apple are also in the game there.
Yeah.
And we could talk about that at another, because there's nothing wrong with using some of these assets in the Apple environment as well. But using maps to actually communicate where you are, what you are, when you're open and so on, strikes me as a really wonderful way, a wonderful, easy visual platform to tell people about your business. And if you're using a map from over and inside, together with all of the information you want to know, together with the wonderful photography, it strikes me as a very powerful platform to communicate what you do and where you are and how to get in contact with you. So thanks, gentlemen, for this session. I think it's wonderful. We no doubt will cut this up into little bits and pieces, all of us, and spread it around the ether, which is the internet. And thanks again to Les, who's off camera, for doing the producing and so on, and for VPA Sports for lending us some of the amazing equipment. I'll put a plug in for VPA because they do the amazing streaming that many people know about in the sports environment and the business environment. In fact, I think they are have been a client of Google previously, and do sporting games and other things all over the country. So thanks for Luke from there. Thanks to the Central Coast Leagues Club, and I'll say thanks for everybody for tuning in and actually watching this, frankly, experimental stream on Facebook. We trust it's gone really well. We've done it well before on the YouTube Google space, and we trust it's gone really well on this space. Let's use this imagery too and cut it up and spread it out. Thank you very much, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thanks, Les.